Hey everybody, welcome to the Syncfrog Expert Hour for 8/26/2014. My name is JP and we'll be talking today about using Syncfrog, SurveyMonkey, and Salesforce. And maybe we'll do some Google Sheets work after that. So the first use case that we're going to go through is actually creating a lead form that will use Syncfrog to synchronize to Salesforce. So here we have our Syncfrog homepage, and we'll go from here to our Salesforce. So what we want to do is we want to create leads. So one of the things that we can do is click on the plus sign here, and we'll take a look at our leads, right? And we want to create any leads. So if I click on today's leads and I click on go, we should have no leads, right? All right, excellent. So we have no leads. And I'm going to create a SurveyMonkey survey that we're going to embed on our website to create said leads. So I'm going to go into SurveyMonkey and I'm going to create a new survey. And we'll just call it lead create 8/26. And click on continue. And our very first question is going to be a text question, right? So it's going to be a descriptive text, I think. No, it is going to be a single text box, as it's much easier. And we will say first name. And there's one of the predictive, what is your first names? And we will click on save and add next question. And again, we're going to say last name. And again, the nice predictive text and email address, right? So we will say what is your personal email addresses. No, I don't like that. Cancel. I don't like that question, so I'm going to click on add question one more time, and we're going to say, again, single text box, what is your email address? And we can also do the validate answer format, and one of the ones we should have is email address, and this will make sure that their email is formatted properly, that they're not missing the @ symbol or putting in just dummy data on our lead create form, right? So we can put that in, so we have our validated answer format, and we say save and add next question, and we'll say company. Okay. Save and continue. Oh, I forgot to add our question type here, which is a single text box. And save and add next question. And I want to do a comment essay box. How can we help you today? Right. That's really simple enough. So we'll click on save and close. So that gives us our surveys. We have our first name, last name, email address, company name, and how can we help you today? That is easy enough. And if we preview it, there we go. And whoop. Cool. So we have our lead create, and there we go. So I'm going to click on collect responses, and I'm going to set up our collector for it. So we have a website collector, and this gives us the ability to embed it into our URL, a pop-up if we wanted, or a survey pop-up if we wanted. And you can also display your size options. This is called using an iframe. One word of caution about this is a lot of browsers are disabling third-party cookies or iframes running on websites. So some people may experience difficulties reading it, but most browsers are rendering it still just fine. And you have some support here. We have our iframe, use a border, or hide the survey. So I'm going to click on save, and here's our website code. And then we can use this code to put in our website. So that's really easy enough, and that's what it's actually going to look like, is our little iframe setup. And we'll say Syncfrog. And cool. So that is our website collector. Now that we have done that, we can kind of use a HTML WYSIWYG to view exactly what it's going to look like. So this is something you would do inside of your website. And let me see, KE one's pretty good. So we should be able to all right, HTML sandbox, how about that? All right, cool. So if I paste it in there and I click on view your code, not that one. So we should be able to all right, so the iframe doesn't render inside of this one. So I'll just do that. All right, cool. So there is our iframe, and we can go ahead and fill this out. So I'm going to use the word name Adam and last name Bowen, and Adam Bowen at Clicktools. And I'll give him a company name of, let's see, Widget Co. All right. And Adam is looking, acquiring more minerals. That's what he's looking for. So if I go ahead and click on done, we get our nice little thank you for taking our survey. So now we have at least one survey result. Okay. So we can see our survey result inside of here if we click on analyze results. And we have our one responses, which is Adam here. And we can see our individual responses, which is first name, last name, all the information that I just provided. So let's go ahead and have this information automatically move over to our Salesforce org to create a new lead. So inside of Syncfrog, I'm going to create a new data leap. And our source app is obviously going to be SurveyMonkey today. And as I already stated, we're going to use Salesforce as our target. And go through, put our credentials, tell it what survey we're using. So we should have a lead create 826. And our collector. So if you had more than one collector, or if you want to just specify a certain collector, so if you did an email deployment or something along those lines, and you only want to synchronize the results from that particular email deployment or campaign, you can actually select that as well. So I'm just going to select website collector. And my collection responses. So new responses would be any responses since the last time it's synced, or all responses. All responses would sync the entire set of responses every single time. Since we've never run this before, new responses are going to work just fine for us. And we'll go ahead and click on next. Tell it what Salesforce org we're using. I'm just using a developer account, and we'll call it example 8/26 lead. Cool. And click on create and OK, take me to the mapping. That's going to bring up our mapping screen here in a second. Cool. And as you can see, every time that you log in, we will give you the tour. And that's so you know where to select everything. So as our tour states, select your Salesforce type, decide how you want to map your survey data into that. So I want to create a lead, and all of our basic types are up at the top here. And any advanced types or even custom objects would be down here at the bottom. So it is alphabetized inside of each subcategory. So we found that having the basic types and advanced types and then all of your custom stuff a little bit easier for you to find. So we're going to be looking at doing a lead. But the one question that I did ask inside of this is, what is your company name? So what I want to do is I want to either find that company and create this lead under that company or create the company. So we're using accounts for that. So we're going to say account and click on add new section. And what we're going to put is we're going to update existing or create our new company, right? And that's going to ask us where we're talking about, right? So where inside of our SurveyMonkey results. So what question do we ask? That was that company name, right? Equals. So we have our account, and what do we have in here? Account name. Perfect. So that'll look for exact account names. So in the case of somebody using initials or something along those lines, it will create a new company because it doesn't know the logic enough to figure out that International Business Machine is actually IBM. And in the case that I do find multiple contacts inside of the system, I can have a little bit of logic applied to it where we can either treat it as an error, use the first created record, the last created record, or the last modified. I'm going to select the last modified. And we're going to map over our question. So it's just going to be account name to company name. And we also have an additional error handling as well, which is if there is an error, what do you want us to do? So if Syncfrog encounters an error when we're synchronizing the data, do you want us to stop processing the entire data leap? Or do we want to skip this particular one mapping panel and continue? Or do we want to skip this actual line item and continue? Which would be, if you had 5 results, it would just skip the result that had an issue and continue on to the other 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to say stop processing completely for now because I want to know of any errors. Okay, so we have our account being updated or existed or created. Now we're going to move on to the lead. So I'm going to select, again, lead from our basic types and click on add new section here. And that's going to create our lead mandatory fields. And again, we're creating a new record for our lead. And what's mandatory? Well, company. Company is mandatory. So we could use the company field, and that's going to go to company name. Then we also want to provide their last name. So one of the mandatory questions that we have is last name. And now I'm going to start mapping out the other fields, right? So I'm going to map our first name, and that's going to go to, well, our first name field. All right, so 1's answered, 2's answered. How about 3? 3 is what is your email address? So that will go to our email. Now, one cool thing that we can do, instead of just creating a lead, we can actually update existing or create a new lead. And the easiest unique identifier that we do get is this question right here, email address, right? As well, 2 people in the same company don't have the same email address. Well, if using personal email addresses. And if that's the case, what do you want us to have happen? first created, last created, or last modified. So this is going to update existing or create a new record using their email address. So you can either have it straight create, or if you're concerned about it creating duplicates, you can use our logic here of update existing or create new. And we'll map over our fifth question here, because that is our last one. And that's going to go to our description area. Cool. And some other things that we might want to have answered, right, for our lead is maybe our lead source, right? So we want this to automatically pick out our lead source so we know where it came from. We can use the fixed value to lead source. What this will do is automatically provide the same value for every single one that comes across. So if I click on leads and I click on create new lead, so what do we have for our lead sources? We have web, phone inquiry, partner referral, purchased list, or other. I'm going to say web, right? Because that's where they're coming in from. So I'm going to type in web. So that'll automatically provide web every single time. Now we can have the status as well. And by default, it's going to pick open, not contacted for every single one. And we can ask all sorts of questions. I've got a couple additional fields on mine, like their Twitter ID, and we can use that actually to update the number of followers if they ever tweet at us. So, I mean, that's pretty much all we're asking on our lead create, right? So then we can even have them enrolled automatically into a campaign if we chose to. And again, we could just use a fixed value. Or we've had other people say, what product are you asking about? And they'll have three options. They'll have three different fixed values and using a condition to apply that for each one. So we have our account being created, and I want to create an account. I know this lead's not going to get associated to it because it's going to the company name, right? So we have company, but it's not a lookup to accounts. But I would like to know what account they would be under when I convert them. So we have that information all provided. Now I can go ahead and click on save. Okay, so I can apply the current mapping. And now we can scroll down, and I have a big long list. So 826 lead, there it is. I'm going to click on the activate button, and this is going to do a one-time sync. I have a paid-for version of Syncfrog, so I can create a schedule, and I could create the schedule as small down as a hourly time frame of 1 hour. Today I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do a run now. And that's going to grab our data from our SurveyMonkey survey and bring it over to Salesforce. So it's grabbing our SurveyMonkey, and we should have one record processed. Awesome. Okay, and you see that we had a manual run type. We had one total record, and it did finish with 0 errors. And again, since I'm using the paid-for version, I can actually see this data and dump it straight into a Google spreadsheet or download it into a CSV. This makes it much easier to edit failures and anything along those lines. And I can also view the log details. This will give me the actual ID value. So here's our target ID. That's the created, did an operation of a create on the account, and that's the account ID. And here's a update action that it provided on that lead for Adam. And there is the ID value. So if I copy that, and I go into Salesforce, and this is a nifty little trick you can do right at the end of that last slash. Go ahead and paste that value in, click on enter, and there is our lead. So you see that our name came across, the company, the lead source, our description here, which is they're requiring more minerals, our lead status, and their email address. Pretty nifty. So this particular survey can sit there on your website, and again, with the paid for version of Syncfrog, you can have it automatically synchronize this data leap throughout the day, the week, depending on what version or package type, or you can do it manually whenever you feel. It all depends really on how much traffic your website gets. Obviously, if it's very high paced, you probably want to have a hourly time frame and have a platinum version of Syncfrog. That way you can get the hourly synchronization. So that's kind of cool. Is just simple lead create form. I know Salesforce does have a lead form that you can use, but this looks a heck of a lot nicer. And I can customize it, and you can use logic and all sorts of good jazz that normally you can't do. So that brought over our survey monkey survey, and that was just using an iframe. So that was kind of cool. Now some of the other stuff that we can do is if I look at my contacts here inside of Salesforce, we'll take a look at HR Puffin stuff here. We can create custom objects and also map directly to them. So we have some survey objects that I've created. Even in MPS, I've got a whole bunch of records on here, even projects, voting. Syncfrog can actually map to any custom object that you have permission to view inside of Salesforce. So we are using that profile's user permissions. So if you have access to read it or write it, Syncfrog will as well. So if you are not able to see a object, make sure that you can view the object, and it's the same thing with fields. Some fields would be on a lockdown. There's nothing we can do to get around it as we're using your credentials.